Hello everyone, welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Winter is coming back with a vengeance. As we turn into 2024, especially later into January, we will be detailing the forecast for January later on in today's video. But if you are new to the channel and not yet subscribed, make sure you are subscribed to the channel down below by simply hitting that subscribe button. And you can help me get to 75,000 subscribers by subscribing to the channel. That is our next goal by the end of January. And also make sure to like the video down below. It helps to get this information passed along to more and more people. Walking out the door this morning, it is chilly again across the Intermountain West. We're waking up to temperatures in the higher elevations into the single digits and the teens out there. A little bit further off to the east, we see highs into the low temperatures into the 30s out here across portions of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and then the east coast of the United States. We're still in that warm sector of the storm as we see those lows getting into the 40s and 50s out there for this morning. So as we go into the afternoon, we will moderate our temperatures. We don't have much snow on the ground across the United States other than the Rockies, so we'll be warming up nicely into the low 30s, the mid 30s out there for the Midwest, the 40s and 50s across the east and the southern United States as we go later on into this afternoon. Here are your current weather conditions with that storm system across the country. We are seeing some snow with some lighter accumulations across the western Great Lakes region down into the Illinois Valley here. Notice the warm sector of the storm is across the eastern Great Lakes and the East Coast as we go through your morning hours here. So it's all liquid precipitation, all rain across these areas. Notice the storm system today. This is your 500 millibar height anomaly, and basically what this shows is when you see the blues and the purples, that usually indicates lowering of the pressure and also more active weather along with cooler weather. Notice where you see the reds and oranges and yellows. That's usually where it indicates high pressure and usually drier weather and milder temperatures usually as well. And you see that we have a trough down here across the eastern U.S. as we go through today. That trough will slowly be able to meander further east as we go into Friday and then into Saturday to start the weekend there on the 29th of December. Notice it's a very slow moving system, much like we've seen this week as we move in toward the weekend time frame. So looking at precipitation chances today, we do have some snowfall here from south central Wisconsin through north central Illinois there, especially west of the Chicagoland area there in Cook County. And then we also see some rain across the eastern Great Lakes, much of the Northeast, and then getting down in across the East Coast, some spotty showers as we go through today with the warm sector of this storm. Notice the slow movement. We're still seeing that cold pocket aloft staying across the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and the Tennessee Valley as we go into Friday. Still all liquid precipitation except for northern Maine and southeastern Canada. It's all liquid across portions of the Northeast and the East Coast. But by the time we get to Saturday, finally, we have that system moving off to the east, and the cold sector of this storm will be across the Northeast. But notice the moisture lagging with this. We only have a couple of snow showers and flurries, and especially across the Appalachians there in West Virginia on Saturday. That's where the highest snowfall accumulations will be. Here is your additional rainfall accumulation in inches with this storm through the weekend, taking you through that Sunday, December 31st, New Year's Eve time frame. Notice the heaviest of the rains across Maine, getting through portions of coastal New England and that I-95 corridor here. And we could be picking up some decent rains as well. The Boston area around an inch, inch and a half. New York City and Long Island around 2 inches of rain. Getting down into the Philadelphia, Baltimore region, even down here into portions of central Maryland, around 2 to 3 inches of rain as we go through the weekend time frame. So watch out for some flooding out there in a couple of spots as we go through Saturday and Sunday. The backside of the system, the cold sector, is going to be producing some lighter snowfall accumulations across the Illinois Valley, especially there into central Illinois. We could be picking up around an inch, inch and a half, worst case scenario here across the Illinois Valley, and this will be west of Chicago. So Chicago probably won't see much of snowfall with this system whatsoever. So we're still waiting on the snow there this winter in Chicago. Here are your high temperatures though, going into New Year's Eve during the daytime hours on the 31st of December. Notice it's cooler off to the north. We have teens and 20s up here across the northern high plains and the upper Midwest. And notice it's even colder up there into Canada. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes, but notice the milder temperatures, relatively speaking, across the Gulf Coast. 40s, 50s, and some 60s down there for New Year's Eve. As we go into New Year's Eve night for your New Year's celebrations and activities outdoors, definitely going to want to pack the jacket and definitely want to gear up for some cooler weather out there as we go into that Sunday night time frame. The freezing line will be all the way down into Texas, across the Tennessee Valley, and even into the Northeast there. Yeah, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, upstate New York. We're going to be into the teens and even single digits for your lows there on New Year's Eve night. So make sure you bundle up out there. And then as we go into Monday, New Year's Day, still the same thing. We're seeing the 20s and 30s to the north, 40s, 50s, and some 60s down there, especially into southern Georgia and Florida as we go into New Year's Day. Well, what about the precipitation chances? Notice we have the lowering of the pressure again with that El Nino pattern continuing with the southern U.S. favored, and then you have more of the high pressure over the top there into Canada and the far northern tier of the United States from Sunday the 31st into Monday the 1st there of January. So here's your precipitation chances on New Year's Eve. You can see there is a very weak system up here across Lake Michigan and the state of Michigan. Maybe a few snow showers, a few flurries. That's not going to add up to anything. We are not worried about a snowstorm with this. Otherwise, the country and really much of North America for that matter, northern Mexico, the United States, southern Canada, very dry as we go into Sunday, and even New Year's Day on Monday, the 1st of January, as we turn the page to 2024, we're going to see some weather. We have some snow across southern Canada there, some very light snow, and then we also have a very weak system down near the Gulf Coast, New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, the Montgomery region, possibly seeing some showers as we go into New Year's Day, but it's not going to be overly heavy. Notice the rainfall accumulations here, only talking around 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, maybe a 1/2 inch of rain, worst case scenario down here, as we move into southeastern portions of Texas near the Houston area, moving east through Lake Charles there and the Baton Rouge region in Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, down through the Montgomery region, Mobile, Alabama, and then much of southern Georgia and northern Florida as we go from New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. So not much of the rainfall out there. Now we need to talk about what is to come as we turn the page into 2024 into January. So January is shaping up to be a very active month for weather, and it all has to hinge on the polar vortex. We've been talking about this for a couple of videos now. The polar vortex is weakening, and what that means is essentially the cold air that's been bottled up to the north into northern Canada, the Arctic, Siberia even, is starting to release down further to the south, eventually into Europe, but also into North America, and then bleeding its way south into the United States. And what this is showing is your North American oscillation is going from near neutral over the next few days to negative, and that's what you like to see if you're a snow lover out there, because that means our storm systems will actually be moving across the southern U.S., but then up the East Coast as well. And that's what you like to see for those classic big snowstorms and blizzards across the Northeast, where we get those very heavy snows. But also, you have to have the cold air as well to produce snow. So you see the AO, the Arctic oscillation, is turning very negative, especially by the middle and end of January. And that means our temperatures will be plunging as we go later into January. So let's show you that here. This is around the first 7-8 days of January. This is early January of 2024. Notice the pinks, purples up here across Canada. The cold air for the most part will be bottled up to the north, much like we've seen all December long. The warmer, milder air will be across the west and across the southern tier of the United States for early January. Things start to change as we go into the middle of the month here, as we start to see more of that real Arctic chill releasing its way further to the south into the upper Midwest, across the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and into the Northeast, and even pushing that freezing line closer toward the Gulf Coast by the middle of January, and then things get really cold potentially by late month. We're talking after the 20th time frame. It could get really cold across the northern tier of the United States and southern Canada, and across the south as well, with these very cold temperatures. So let's show you, this is not verbatim, but the temperatures we could be dealing with as we go later into January. So again, the first 7-8 days of the month, this is early January 2024. These are your potential high temperatures. Notice below zero, well up into central Canada. We have some colder air across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes there into the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. We could be seeing some cold shots of air, but notice out west and the southern tier of the United States, much like we've seen for December, we will continue to see a lot of those milder temperatures for early January. Things change by the middle of the month, around the 14th, 15th, 16th time frame. We're really going to see that cold punch of air, and it's going to come in two waves. The first wave is the appetizer, as I call it, as we're going to have more of those single digits above or below zero across the U.S., and then teens below zero for high temperatures across southern Canada, and that freezing line going all the way down toward portions there, the Houston Metroplex, going all the way south into the Dixie Alley region, the Carolinas during this time. And then here is the main event as we go into late January. Yeah, these could be your high temperatures out there if this comes to fruition for the last week or two of the month. Yeah, we could be talking teens, 20s, even 30s below zero, folks, for your temperatures out there with that freezing line going way, way to the south. So that is something to keep an eye on. So with the cold air in place, we're setting the foundation for some snowfall out there. Initially, the jet stream is not really going to be favorable for the first quarter of the month of January, the first week or so. We're going to have more of that northwesterly flow. It's a colder flow out there across the upper Midwest and the northeastern United States as well, but it's not really going to be, a jet stream favorable for those real big snowstorms that come from Texas and then move up the East Coast. That's just not going to happen in early January. Things change, though, by the middle of the month. You notice the jet stream takes a little bit more of a dip further south towards the southern and central U.S. and then up the East Coast a little bit by the middle of the month. We're starting to turn the corner here. And then as we go into late January, notice a very big highway for storms, and notice the dip here all the way to the Four Corners region through Texas and then up the East Coast. And that, my friends, is what we like to see for some snow out there and some bigger snowstorms. So looking at our total accumulated precip for the month of January of 2024, it looks to be, again, with that negative NAO, we're going to have more of the active weather across the south, the southeast, of course, much like we have seen, but then up the East Coast. And yes, the I-95 corridor getting some very heavy precip during this time frame. And you see a signal on here with the CFS version 2 model, does very well here in the medium and long term. And you notice the greens down here, we're favoring the heavier precipitation with this storm track across portions of Texas, through the southeast, and then eventually up the East Coast. And don't let these yellows fool you across the Midwest or Ohio Valley. That doesn't necessarily mean you won't see heavy precip, but when you average all 31 days out across the month of January, you're probably going to end up still below normal, especially with the first half of the month probably being quieter than the second half up there. So now let's look at the snow depth in inches. So early January, we mentioned we still got the mild air out west and across the south, so we're really just not going to see much of that snowpack moving further south. That's going to be bottled up to the north with that cold air across Canada and the upper Great Lakes region and interior New England. Notice by the middle of January, that snow line begins to creep further to the south across central plains here into the Midwest and the northern Ohio Valley there, and then eventually getting closer toward the I-95 corridor as well. Then as we turn into late January with the very cold air that we were just showing you that could be moving into North America and the United States, Notice the snow line down here toward the Red River into North Texas, possibly going into the northern Louisiana, through northern Alabama and Mississippi, and down toward the Atlanta region there, into Georgia. The Carolinas getting in on the mix potentially. So this could be a nice setup for the U.S. for a very cold but very snowy January, and we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward into time and keep you updated on this channel with accurate weather forecasts. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for detailed weather breakdowns across North America and the tropics. You can help me get to 75,000 subscribers by the end of January by subscribing to the channel. Also, be sure to like this video as it helps to get this information to more and more people. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their week out there.